Hi everyone, welcome to Training with Kayce, where we explore animal training and living our best lives with animals. I'm Joseph Laughlin, producer of this podcast, and now here's your host, Kayce Cover. Let's get started.
Hey, thank you, Joseph. Welcome to Training with Kayce. I'm your host, Kayce Cover, and we're still talking about safety issues. And the issue of this podcast is perceptual confusion. Okay, so what is that, you might ask? That is the little, we'll call it bulkiness of an animal that's due to perceptual confusion. Either they suddenly stop doing something, they don't want to go forward, or they get frightened, or they run from it, or somehow act in an unpredictable way, in an uncooperative way. So, what are some situations that I have seen that are related to perceptual confusion? Well, marine mammals. It took me only 2.5 weeks to teach a backwards flip if the animal had the physical conditioning necessary to do it. Of that 2.5 weeks, the majority of the time was spent teaching the animal to follow the target smoothly, just in and out of the water, not jumping out of the water, but just to follow the target and break the surface of the water and go back in without trying to flip over or grab the target or something like that. Why would it be so hard? Why was that one little step much harder than getting the actual flip or getting the animal up into the air? And what I think it is that the animal is very comfortable operating in the water. And he's fairly comfortable operating in the air, but he's not comfortable operating at the air-water interface. There are certain positions that the animal can be where he could see something both above the water and underwater. He might even see two of something. He might see that the thing in the air looks smaller than the thing in the water, and it throws him off. He's all of a sudden he has uncertainty. He's like, well, wait a minute, I want to be able to look at this. So you'll see this with horses if you ask them to walk into the water. When a horse walks into the water, the things under the water look different than the thing if it was out in the air. Sometimes they can't even see. It might be a muddy puddle. And the horse has uncertainty about walking into this puddle. How about taking a horse in or out of a barn or the forest? So when you go from the barn out into the open air, often it's very bright outside the barn and pretty stark inside the barn. And the animal will walk smoothly with you right to the opening into the outside and then suddenly stop. It's a displacement behavior. They're just politely asking, could I have just a minute to let my eyes adjust, please? And the answer is yes. In fact, I will say to a horse, okay, are you ready to go out? Let's stop here for a moment. Let your eyes adjust. You good? Let's go. Same thing when you're walking back in. How about the perception of cars coming from behind a horse or any animal, where the car is getting louder, 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 and even the whoosh of the wind as it goes by the animal. And the animal's like, what in the world is that? That's a car. And they're going very fast. And here's what we do. Okay, so we're trying to resolve the uncertainty and explain things to the animal. Now, I'm trying to think if there's other things. Oh, if they smell something that you don't smell, if they hear something you don't hear, Dogs are very, very sensitive to air brake sounds. And I've never seen a recording of air brakes, like where you see the actual sound graph. So I don't know how complex that sound is. I know from looking at bridges that some of the bridges are actually very complex sounds, surprisingly complex. Whatever an air brake sound is, it terrifies a lot of dogs. It may be physically painful. So for a human, I at least did have really, really good hearing. I had perfect pitch, not for singing, okay, but I could hear whether something was off by just a tiny bit. And I had really outstanding hearing acuity. So for some of my side work, I did medical transcription. Wouldn't you think that I would be particularly well adapted to do that job because I have such good hearing? And the answer is no, it was horrible. And it was horrible because we had to wear these headsets that are taking the sound right into my ears. And a lot of the doctors would mumble. They resented having to do their records, and they were going to take it out on anybody. So they're sitting there and eating their lunch and blowing their noses and all this stuff. So you're listening, and maybe you have to turn the headset up to catch what the doctor is saying. And then all of a sudden, he like clears his throat or something like that. And it was literally physically painful. It was physically painful for me to go to a rock concert. I just couldn't get out of there fast enough. I really resented it. I never went to another one. I thought all these people were nuts. Why would you go 2 decibels above or 20 or 100 decibels above the pain level, wreck these speakers? This isn't entertainment, blah, blah, blah. So I had perceptual confusion and perceptual discomfort, okay, when it came to sound. And this can happen to any animal. So what do we do about it? What's the practical solution? The first thing is to notice it, to see when that animal starts to respond. And if you do this carefully for long enough, you'll start to do it automatically. So sometimes it can be pretty obvious, like the animal startles right as something passes the edge of his peripheral vision, or they startle because somebody's coming up behind them, or they hear a sound like rollers, like rolling luggage or a skateboard. Those are other sounds that are often very difficult. Or the sound of a plastic bag blowing around, or a tarp billowing in the wind. These are all things that tend to be very upsetting for animals. So you need to notice them, or better yet, anticipate them. If you anticipate them, you can show them to the animals in a logical, progressive way. So you can take a folded tarp and you can show it to an animal, and you can let them see it and smell it and taste it. And it's folded. It's not billowing around. It's not scary. Then you can unfold it and fold it back. And when you've done all of that and the animal is okay with that, then we can have 2 people holding the ends, and we can let it flow up and down, kind of like a jump rope. And when the animal is fine with that, we can put it on the ground and let him walk over it. And the next thing you know, we've got horses doing all kinds of behaviors on the tarps as we're holding them on the sides, billowing them like we're doing the ocean in a theater production. And the animal's fine with it. We did seminars for horses that did dressage and steeple chasing, eventing, that kind of thing. And in 4 hours, we covered umbrellas, rolling luggage, skateboards, plastic bags, tarps in every iteration, water traps for jumping, the various kinds of jumps, various kinds of noises. It goes on and on. We covered all of that in 4 hours, and every single horse just aced it. So it doesn't have to be a difficult or long process. But if you don't give the animal a chance to explore, understand, and resolve their fears, their uncertainty, you may never get past that issue. So one of my beloved clients has a wonderful horse that was afraid of the shavings pile. Now, she had shavings in her stall all the time. Didn't bother her one bit. But that it was a different matter when you put them in a big pile. When they saw this, they simply took her out there and they showed her everything. They showed her shavings blowing in the wind, shavings being shoveled. They let her walk in it while they were right there. They rubbed it on her skin. They let her smell it, all this. Not only did it totally fix her problem, but she also could be seen from time to time going out and studying the shaving pile on her own. Like, she wanted to conquer this. She didn't want it to be a problem. And she took it to the next level. I just love that. I absolutely love that. So there again is the beauty of sharing with the animal what the goal is and allowing them to be true collaborators to drive it forward. And who relieved all this stress? If something is constantly bothering you and you never get a chance to resolve what it is, you never get past it. You get a chance to see, oh, that's all it is. That's not a problem. I can deal with that. It's not. It's no longer an issue. And I would just want to remind something that I say over and over again. Training is 90% effective communication rather than arcane and complicated reinforcement strategies. If you have a good relationship with an animal, 9 times out of 10, they're willing to just do something just because you're partners and you're doing it and let's go do it together. For that to happen, you have to have a relationship and you have to involve them in, understanding what the goals are and actually driving the thing forward. And then we get to see the beauty of self-driven excellence. It's outstanding. Okay, so perceptual confusion needs to be, first of all, recognized, then secondly, explained, thirdly, examined, giving the animal an opportunity. And then you're going to get better and better at anticipating problems and explaining them ahead of time to remove the uncertainty. All right, so you go from trying to fix a problem or a near problem where the animal was worried or confused to then being able to allay the confusion or the worry or the fear ahead of the event. And you're going to be amazed if you don't already do this. So many of the animals, you can say things like the horse that was afraid of the shavings. Ruby, remember your shavings? And they seem scary, but really they were just like the shavings in your stall that you walk on. We're going to go to a hayfield. And the hayfield is going to be waving in the wind because it's a windy day. And horses aren't very comfortable with windy days anyway. We're going to go there. The hay is going to be waving in the wind. It's the same hay as you eat. Maybe I'll even take a little handful of hay. We get there, we stand by the side of the field. Hey, Ruby, this is your hay, and this is your hay in the wild, so to speak. We can cut the problem off before it ever happens. Okay, try this. Try this. Let me know what you think. Thank you for joining me. Take care, and of course, be safe, right? All right, till next time.
Hey fans, are you enjoying Training with Kayce? Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Kayce Covert on YouTube. That is youtube.com/C/Kayce Covert. Also, give the podcast a like, share, and comment. Thanks for joining us. Come back for more news and views on animal training and living with animals. Stay at the top of the pack with Kayce. This is Joseph Laughlin, producer of Training with Kayce. See you next time.